Well, happy Monday, all you fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Top story of the day is the continuing storyline of, are we going to get a resolution to the Russia-Ukraine war? And our big story on Friday was the meeting between Trump and Putin. Today, the meeting was with Trump and Zelensky. So first, let's cover the ground of Trump and Putin first. Over the weekend, Trump was asked by Sean Hannity, how would he grade the meeting?
If you had to grade it on a scale of 1 to 10?
So I think the meeting was a 10 in the sense that we got along great, and it's good when, two big powers get along, especially when they're nuclear powers. We're number one, they're number two in the world, and it's a big deal. That's a big deal. You never want to even mention that word, the word nuclear. But we have a tremendous nuclear. I rebuilt it when I was president, first term, and I hated to rebuild it. It was the one thing I hated to rebuild, but we had to. And we have the greatest nuclear force. We have the greatest military in the world, actually. And they have a big nuclear presence also.
All right. So, of course, it's the best meeting. It went totally well. It's the best meeting. I know it. You know it. Everybody knows it. Believe me. Kind of knew he would say that. It was a different tone on the Sunday shows over the weekend. They stuck Marco Rubio out there, and he had to go to Meet the Press and Face the Nation, and I forgot the other one he did because I only got audio from these two. But I saw him in another interview this weekend too. But the questions that are thrown at this guy, it's just so eye-rolling, exhausting. Margaret Brennan was asking him about, man, wasn't this such a failure? Tell me about how much of a failure this was. It's like, dude, can you just attempt to ask an even keel balanced question that's not just 100% from the DNC playbook? So check this out.
Just a final point here. So at this point, even though he demanded sanctions, no ceasefire, and no deadlines.
Well, but ultimately, first of all, about deadlines, the deadline is as soon as possible. We want this war to end as soon as possible. I mean, that's why we're working on it. In terms of sanctions, look, at the end of the day, if we can't reach a peace agreement here and this war continues and so forth, then I anticipate you'll see the president take further action. He's already made that clear.
Hey, come on now. It's been 24, 48 hours since the meeting. We don't have this thing wrapped up yet. Well, God, what a failure. Well, now, look, even if there is no sanctions, which there's not thus far, 3 days later, even though there's no ceasefire, even though there's no deadline, that's exactly what we had last Thursday. So it's not a failure. It's just a continuation of the status quo. Now, if that's a failure, then you need to go ahead and admit that he was handed a failure, but that wouldn't be his fault. Look, I know you're thinking what I'm thinking. Even when it's coming out of my mouth, I'm thinking, why do you care, Parker? They're just going to criticize everything the guy does, whether it's good or bad. If there was a cold meeting on the tarmac, they would have said, see, things aren't going well. However, since he was nice to him on the tarmac, now all of a sudden that's seen as some sort of failure. How dare you elevate him? How dare you make him look awesome or put him on a red carpet or, the dude cannot win.
Critics of President Trump will say the pomp and circumstance, the red carpet, the warm handshake, that President Trump simply lost that Putin gained there just by being on the world stage and walking down a red carpet with the president. Your reaction to that?
Well, critics of President Trump are always going to find something to criticize. You don't even pay attention to it anymore. But I will tell you this, Putin is already on the world stage. He's already on the world stage. The guy's conducting a full-scale war in Ukraine. He's already on the world stage. He has the world's largest tactical nuclear arsenal in the world and the second largest strategic nuclear arsenal in the world. He's already on the world stage. When I hear people say that, it elevates him. Well, all we do is talk about Putin all the time. All the media's done is talk about Putin all the time for the last 4 or 5 years.
You know what? That's actually a good response. I'm not the world's biggest Marco Rubio fan, but how dare you elevate him on the world stage? Elevate him on the world stage. Y'all have spent the last 8 years giving him credit for the 2016 election when he probably had absolutely nothing to do with the outcome of that election. You guys have been blaming him for everything. Oh, wow, they must have tricked everyone and put misinformation in a laptop and somehow got it framed to Hunter Biden. Boy, you guys are elevating him constantly. But, what do you want him to do? He was warm to him on the tarmac. That's a criticism. What do you want him to do? Flip him off? Putin comes off the plane. Pull up the carpet. No carpet. Give me that water balloon. I'm going to hit him with the water balloon. Oh, crap. I missed. Give me another one. Is that what you're supposed to do? Just shoot him with a super soaker? Oh, God forbid. We shake his hand and he acts warmly. I told you on Friday, and I told you we talked about this on Thursday as well. Leading up to this, he's going to say nice things. That is the playbook for businessmen. And so then Putin's the most evil thing in the world. Zelensky is, of course, is a sympathetic figure. And now Rubio is made to answer for Donald Trump bullying Zelensky. You know what bullying is defined by? It's doing a lot of heavy lifting in this conversation. Bullying means demanding a ceasefire. Oh, okay. World peace is now a bad thing. Peace and ending a war. You'll somehow manage to reframe that as something negative. Oh, what a bully. How dare he not let tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians and Russians continue to die. What a bully.
You know, there is concern from the Europeans that President Zelensky is going to be bullied into signing something away. That's why you have these European leaders coming as backup tomorrow. Can you?
No, it isn't. That's not why they're
reassure
coming
them?
as back. That's not true. No, but that's not that's not true. They're not coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied. They're
Well,
not
that
coming.
February
in fact,
Oval Office
they're coming
meeting
here
in
tomorrow.
front of television cameras where President Zelensky.
Do you know how many meetings
was
we've had
dressed
since
down.
then?
Oh no, I know, and I was just up in.
Oh, yeah. All right. That's enough. Good job, Marco Rubio. How bad is the media? They're making me say nice things about Marco Rubio. Coming up next, you're going to meet my next guest, Jeff Gilson. He's a retired lawyer, development consultant, political strategist, and speechwriter, and get his angle on how the progress is going between Trump, Putin, and Zelensky. That's next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Donald Trump sitting down with European leaders and Zelensky at a big mahogany-looking table at the White House. Is that what they're at the White House? And I don't even recognize half of these people. But we're just going to drop in a little bit here because this is the follow-up. He meets with Putin on Friday. He met with Zelensky this morning. They did a press conference right before the James Show. I'll play some of that audio in just a second. And now some other people have come. You heard that mentioned in the last clip. Well, all these other European leaders coming for backup so he doesn't get bullied. No, they were coming to sit around a table and have a serious discussion about peace. Like that's such a bad thing. All right, let's just jump in right now. Just cold turkey, see what's going on. Oh, is that them wrapping it up as soon as we go there? All right. Never mind. We don't need to hear Martha McCallum. So I guess they weren't too impressed. You must not be missing anything. So we'll just roll over to my next guest here, Jeff Giles on The James Show. He's a retired lawyer, development consultant, political strategist, and speechwriter. Welcome to The James Show, sir. Okay, so how do you think it's going so far, Jeff? I mean, we've got a little reaction from Putin and Trump over what happened on Friday. Things seem to be sort of positive with Trump and Zelensky this morning. Your thoughts? You talking about weighted dice? We're talking with Jeff Gilston, a political strategist, speechwriter. Jeff, so let's see. What does Putin have to give up? If he has that mindset, let me think out of the box for a second here and run this by you. Why doesn't he roll over an easier mark like a Belarus? The farmland. It does seem a little bit easier, though. All right. Well, good chat. Thanks for catching us up on some of that. Appreciate your insights. This is Jeff Gilson. How do we find your work online, sir? Good stuff. Thank you very much, Jeff Gilson, on the James Show. Coming up next, we backed up the tape, and you're going to hear Trump and some of the European leaders at a big brown table coming up on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, sports fans, you about ready for football? I know. It's teasing me. It's almost here. I don't get too excited over preseason, but you can still have fun with preseason on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is so fun, it makes preseason watchable. So what do you want to do in the meantime before the real games start? You download the Prize Picks app. You use promo code WBAP. You get $50 to play with your first $5 lineup. And then you can go through and you can find some little easy ones like, hey, the kicker, is he going to get 2 field goals or 1.5 field goals, more or less? That's all you do. On stats from 2 to 6 players, you can win up to 2,000 times your money. And you can start off by playing with the money we provide for you. Download the Prize Picks app. Use promo code WBAP. You get $50 with your first $5 lineup. It could be Arch Manning and Dak Prescott. So go ahead and try it out. Have a little bit of fun. Thank me later. Prize Picks. Run your game.
It really is beautiful. Thank you for all the wonderful things that took place today. We've had a very successful day thus far. Important discussions as we work to end the killing and stop the war in Ukraine. We're all working for the same goal, very simple goal, of stop the killing, get this settled,
I spoke indirectly with President Putin today. We're going to call President Putin right after this meeting. I'm sure we're going to have a solid meeting, good meeting, maybe a great meeting. We're going to try to work out a trial after that and see if we can get it finished. Put this to sleep, because this is not since the Second World War has there been anything like this. So I'm honored to welcome NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. He's a great gentleman, great political leader in Europe generally, but now he's the NATO Secretary General. You're doing a fantastic job. Thank you very much, Mark. Prime Minister Starmer of the United Kingdom, our friend and my friend, and doing really well, and people like him a lot. We all like him. Everyone knows President Macron of France, who's been with me from the beginning. One of the first people I met was a foreign dignitary, and I liked him from day one. That's a pretty unusual thing. Prime Minister Meloni of Italy, who's a really great leader and an inspiration over there. She's served now, even though she's a very young person, she's served there for a long period of time relative to others. They don't last very long. You've lasted a long time. You're going to be there a long time. Chancellor Merz of Germany, who is a very strong person and a very strong leader and very highly respected in Germany. And he's my friend, and it's an honor to have him as my friend. Thank you very much. Very good. You look great with your tan. What did you get that tan? I want to get a tan like that. President Stubb of Finland, and he's somebody that, where are we here? Oh, you look better than I've ever seen you look. But you've done a great job, and we wanted to have you here because you're somebody that we all respect. And you've had a lot to do with the success, I think, and the potential success. And thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. And the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, who is somebody that we just made a big deal with all of those countries. I don't know. I think you might be more powerful than all these guys at this table. I don't know. But we had a great negotiation, and you're respected all over the world. So I want to thank you very much for being here. It's a great honor to have you. The Alaska Summit reinforced my belief that while difficult peace is within reach, and I believe that in a very significant step, President Putin agreed that Russia would accept security guarantees for Ukraine, and this is one of the key points that we need to consider, and we're going to be considering that at the table also, like who will do what, essentially. I'm optimistic that collectively we can reach an agreement that would deter any future aggression against Ukraine, and I actually think there won't be. I think that's even overrated, largely. We also need to discuss that. President of Ukraine, we can, the people, and we can have a good night because we want to save a lot. Obviously, and President Putin can talk a little bit more about that. You know, in the 6 or so wars that we stopped, we haven't had a ceasefire. But I believe it's difficult, great result with it. And they speak pollution today. Have the media, if you want.
Speak without microphone. Thank you so much. I think that we had very good conversation with President Trump. Very hands-on. So a lot more about the second point. Your wife can be very important Trump if you and all our people guarantees. Which thank you for the makes we have such big unity.
When we do, I think it's maybe they're going to release them very soon, like immediately.
That I'm willing to participate in the security guarantees is a big step.
Massive. Ursula, maybe on behalf of
his friends and
right.
Agreed of the killing. This should be one of our.
We're here for a different.
Extremely. The next steps ahead are more complicated ones now. The path is open. You opened it last Friday, but now the way is open for complicated negotiations. And to be honest, we all would like to see a ceasefire, the latest from the next meeting on. I can't imagine that the next meeting would take place without.
we just a couple of weeks ago made the largest trade deal in history. So, very great leader.
Mr. President, Donald, many thanks for having us today. I think this is extremely helpful that we are meeting and hearing that you are having such a good meeting today here in Washington. Days of meeting put pressure this year meeting.
We'll see how the negotiations with great governments work.
The stalling in the battlefield, which was achieved with the bravery of Ukrainians and with the unity that we all provide, guarantee justice, Ukraine. And the reason why I mentioned it,
He's not committed to guarantees that the growing dialogue all supplying security today at this point.
Over the European couple of
around this, looking out of this meeting, is about the security guarantees, which are a big part of the 3.5.
Before I finish up, I want you to say a couple of words. Go ahead.
I'll take the note.
But this is the first one. You can't say that very often.
I mean, it's for me, of the war solution difficult, but that's why we're here.
And I don't relationship with them. So we're going to know two willing points. And it's possible. You're staying there.
Appreciate with European leaders, and this time including Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, all at the White House to discuss possible pathway to peace in the Russia-Ukraine.
And hearing that
Very great leader. That's a big thing, and congratulations. That's
Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. All right, so Trump was just at the big table in a summit at the White House. You know, let's use summit with the lowercase s in this one. And so Trump is meeting now with a bunch of European leaders for the continuing talks to try and settle this whole Russia-Ukraine thing. Now, I sort of flippantly said before the break, I don't recognize half of these people. Well, my ignorance has ended. I went through and listened to most of it and skipped around. So Trump meeting with these European leaders. I did not recognize the new leader of Italy. Her name is Giorgia Meloni. And for one thing, she looks like she's 36. And I know that just makes me feel old because she might be 36. 36 isn't too old to be a world leader. Here I am way older than that. Kind of underachieving there, aren't you? So then I didn't also recognize the new fella, the Chancellor of Germany. And you're actually going to hear a clip from him in just a second. Keir Starmer, I did recognize the new Prime Minister for UK. Emmanuel Macron was there from France. The Finnish president was there. So don't feel bad if you don't recognize the Finnish president. I had never seen that dude before in my life. However, when you look at and I tried to listen to what everyone's little statement was because I can just skip through it here. Technology's great. Every single person that I listened to their whole little spiel there when Donald Trump gave them a chance to talk at the table, they just went around the table and he got to talk to each one. They all seem to be concerned about the security guarantee. That seemed to be the sticking point for everyone at that table except for Ukraine, right? And so that was interesting. But check it out. This is Merz. He is the new Chancellor of Germany. And I think this is probably the best summary of what everyone said. By the way, thank you, everyone, for speaking English. I hate trying to do this through translators, and I'm impressed, man. Because how many languages do you speak?
Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Chancellor from Germany. Very great leader.
Mr. President, Donald, many thanks for having us today. I think this is extremely helpful that we are meeting and hearing that the two of you are having such a good meeting today here in Washington. The next steps ahead are the more complicated ones now. The path is open. You opened it last Friday. But now the way is open for complicated negotiations. And to be honest, we all would like to see the ceasefire, the latest from the next meeting on. I can't imagine that the next meeting would take place without a ceasefire. So let's work on that, and let's try to put pressure on Russia.
Remember that
because
part.
the credibility of these efforts we are undertaking today are depending on at least a ceasefire from the beginning of the serious negotiations from next step on. So
All right, now you got to like the sound of that. That's the part I wanted you to hear.
would like to see.
They expect a ceasefire. They think a ceasefire is imminent. In fact, they think when we come back to this table, which they expect peace talks to continue, that there's going to be a ceasefire between now and then. So I know it's not a war between Germany and Ukraine or Germany and Russia. I know, I mean, Finland's there. And it's nice that we have their voice since they're sort of neighbors. I mean, they're neighbors with Russia, but they're not between Russia and Ukraine or catching any of the collateral damage. But everyone seemed to be, at least publicly, on board with the idea that peace talks are going to continue, that there's going to be a ceasefire. There needs to be a ceasefire. There's going to be a ceasefire. And now we're just sort of working out the details. Now, I don't know if we can get this level of honesty or transparency from world leaders ever. So let's just take this all with a grain of salt. Maybe they're just saying what they should be saying in public. Maybe they're just saying what they want you to hear, not what's actually happening. But at least they're saying we all expect a ceasefire. At least they're saying, even if they are just covering their butts. The general optimism flows from that. The other thing I wanted to dispel is I heard this on a couple other shows, and I don't want to name names. There wasn't anybody on this station. This is what I get for flipping around. But this idea that Hillary Clinton said if Trump brings peace to the Ukraine-Russia war, that she'll nominate him for the Nobel Prize. And if you're thinking, wow, well, that sounds actually like something a decent human being would do. That's fantastic. What good news. Man, that's not what she said at all. I don't know who is trying to tell you or make you think that Hillary Clinton is all of a sudden a nice, magnanimous person who's just going to call balls and strikes and leave politics at the door when it comes to people living and dying. No, she's far too ghoulish for that. If you just back it up about 25 seconds from where everyone else is starting this soundbite that you're going to hear probably over the next 24 to 48 hours, you would get the real context. And what it really is if Trump can do all this and magically come to terms that no one would agree to and ride a unicorn and divide by zero, then sure, I would give him the Nobel Peace Prize, or I would nominate him for the Nobel Prize. So you'll see that's not what she said at all. In fact, she's saying the opposite. She just laid out a list of impossible things and said, if he does all that, then yeah, I'll nominate him for the Nobel Prize myself. She was making fun of him. She wasn't actually being a decent human being for 5 seconds.
I understand from everything I've read, he very much would like to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. And honestly, if he could bring about the end to this terrible war where Putin is the aggressor, invading a neighbor country, trying to change the borders. If he could end it without putting Ukraine in a position where it had to concede its territory to the aggressor, had to, in a way, validate Putin's vision of greater Russia, but instead could really stand up to Putin, something we haven't seen, but maybe this is the opportunity. To make it clear that there must be a ceasefire, there will be no exchange of territory, and that over a period of time, Putin should be actually withdrawing from the territory he seized in order to demonstrate his good faith efforts, let us say, not to threaten European security. If we could pull that off, if President Trump were the architect of that, I'd nominate him for a Nobel Peace Prize, because my goal here is to not allow capitulation to Putin.
We got it. See? That's being misrepresented. It's so hard. You're going to see that before the end of the day, and you're going to be like, Parker was right. Parker was right. They're playing that out of context. But now you're all caught up on the Ukraine situation. Coming up next on the James Show, we finally got the report cards, the grades for all the public schools in Texas. Find out the 10 best, 10 worst, and then you and I are going to have a nice little discussion on what is the difference? Why do some schools do so well and some fail? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Well, schools finally get their grades in Texas. It's kind of ironic because they're schools and now they're getting graded and they're like, Some schools did well, some schools did poorly. I like what WFAA did, and they ranked them, the 10 top scoring schools in North Texas, just our region. We don't care how the schools are way up in the panhandle, almost Colorado we're doing, do we? We're self-centered. So in the North Texas area, WFAA split it out 10 best, 10 worst. Now, we need to have a very adult conversation. We need to be mature about this, but we need to talk about what works and what doesn't. Why do some schools get a very good grade and some schools get a very bad grade? And before we even start calling in and cussing at each other, let's go ahead and run through some of the likely culprits here. Because some people, the people who already want to grow government and thinking, utopia is just another government program away, they will tell you that the biggest reason some schools do good and some schools do poorly is socioeconomic factors. Well, they're rich, of course they do better. Well, they're poor, of course they do worse. Well, why is that? What's the difference there? Does that mean the rich schools can pay their teachers more and they get better teachers? Does that mean poor schools, schools that perform poorly, pay their teachers less and so they don't get good teachers? Well, that would be easy to flesh out in the data that we have available, because now we can look at the schools that did terrible. And are they paying their teachers significantly less than the schools that did fantastic? I don't mean average. I don't mean above average. I don't mean good. I mean fantastic. And then we can compare the best schools around here to the worst schools around here to where my kids go to school in Bullard. I shouldn't have said that. Bug tussle. Pretend you didn't hear that. Just erase that. Can you hit dump? I'll hit it. There, I hit it. Sorry. I done it because I said my kid's school. We'll compare that to Bug Tussle, and then we'll learn. Because the school that did the third best around here is Lovejoy. They did the third best. Number 1 was Highland Park. Number 2, Carroll. Number 3, Lovejoy. I wanted to pick Lovejoy out because it's not some pretty much just gigantic subdivision that happens to have a school district like Highland Park and Carroll here. Lovejoy is a good mix. It's racially diverse, economically diverse. It's kind of suburb, kind of exurb, parts rural. Lovejoy, did you know they pay their teachers less than the worst performing school in North Texas, which is Lake Worth ISD? Lake Worth got a 62. 62 out of 100 was their grade. Lovejoy got a 94 out of 100. Now, if it's purely socioeconomic factors and the fact that, well, they have more money so they can pay their teachers more and they can have better facilities and so therefore that they get a better result, that's already blown out of the water on the first statistic. What else you got? No one wants to bring up race. I'm kind of hesitant to bring it up too because I can only get myself in trouble. When I go through and I look at the data, though, I think we have an incomplete score. Because what my theory on the defining factor here isn't measured in the data. Because what I think Highland Park has, what I think Carroll has, Lovejoy has, some of these other top school districts have, that the ones that don't have, number 1, isn't money, it's dads. But I can't prove or disprove my position because I don't know what percentage of kids at Lake Worth ISD have their biological mother and father present in the home, raising them as the plain old traditional, boring, vanilla nuclear family. But let's roll through, and I'm gonna list out the schools, and I want you to give me your theories. You heard my theory. I think it's dad. Some people think it's race. Some people think it's money. Some people think it's poverty or single motherhood or racism. Number 1, Highland Park. We might have guessed that. Number 2, Carroll ISD. The third best school in North Texas, Lovejoy, Savelis Bend, Huckabee, Sunnyvale, Capel, Palo Pinto, Melissa, Wiley, Argyle, Grafford. I haven't even heard of that one. And Aledo. Those are your top 10. Give yourself a round of applause. And who gives them a round of applause? The parents of those towns. Give yourself a round of applause. The 10 lowest rated districts in North Texas. Number 1, Lake Worth. Then it goes to Greenville, Gainesville, Bridgeport, Poolville, Kemp, Commerce, Corsicana, Crandall, Venus. Your theories. Why? Why do some schools do better than others? What are the good schools doing right and the bad schools are doing wrong? Is it even up to the schools or the teachers? Is it purely a function of the society around them? We're going to have a very grown-up conversation about that coming up next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Park. Oh, we can do better than that. I know it's a month. Thank you. God, got to beg for applause on my own damn show. But look, as not only a property owner and therefore taxpayer who's getting gouged every month for these taxes, I also have 4 kids in the public school system here in the great state of Texas. So I am super interested in hearing their grades. Now, Texas had blocked, or not the entire state of Texas, but the school system had blocked releasing their grades. It's like, no, here, we'll evaluate them. And then they evaluate them. They're like, we changed our mind. We're not going to release them. Sounds shady, right? Why don't they want you to know how they're doing with your tax dollars? So we finally got some grades, and we're reviewing the top 10 versus the bottom 10 performing school districts just here in North Texas. You know, I don't really want to compare us to people in El Paso or down in McAllen or way up in Amarillo or Canadian, you know, that little town. But I found some interesting stuff that I thought you would be interested in the data. Now, you can jump in at any time and give me your theories on why some school districts do better than others. 800-288-9227. But I'm going to share with you some things that I have heard from teachers out there. My sister's a teacher. I have 2 ancestor teachers. My grandmother was a teacher. Miss Parker was a teacher for a few years there back in. Hi, Miss Parker. So believe me, I know teachers and I know what they talk about and I know what they say. But would you be interested to know that Highland Park, the #1 rated school district in all of North Texas, on average, pays their teachers less than the school district that does the worst, Lake Worth? Isn't that kind of mind-blowing? Because I can see how it's counterintuitive. You know, you would think, well, these poor school districts, they do terrible. They don't have the money to pay the teachers, and all the teachers go to the good school districts because the good school districts pay more. What I've learned from teachers is that pay is only a part of it. They would gladly take a pay cut if it meant fewer disciplinary problems. They would gladly get paid less money if it meant the parents were more helpful. They would gladly take less money for a better experience. So that, the pay scale, the average teacher salary in Lake Worth, $65,466. For Highland Park, $64,146. For Lovejoy, which is not only number 3, it's not the top 1, not top 2, but it's in the top 3, $59,701. You go all the way to Bug Tussle, which got a solid B. Bug Tussle didn't do too bad. It got 88 out of 100. They pay their teachers $51,936. So a school that pays $10,000 less than the state average gets better results than the school that pays more, $3,000 more than the state average. Isn't that mind-boggling? When you go break it up by race, I mean, you can kind of find some correlations there, but you can find some exceptions to the rule there too. So race doesn't correlate that bad. And of course, it's not the color of your skin that makes you a good student. I think the reason that why you see any movement in when you break it down by race is some races have more fathers. They just, it's an individual decision that many people have made over and over and over. And it bears out in the macro statistics that the communities that have more kids that are being raised by their biological parents definitely have better educational outcomes. Another interesting piece of the data, the teacher-student ratio doesn't tend to correlate. And we have the weird situation again, where you would think, well, you know, Highland Park probably does better than the terrible schools over on Lake Worth because, you know, they've got so much money. Maybe they don't pay their teachers as much, but they have more of them. Actually, Lake Worth has a lower student per teacher ratio than Highland Park. In fact, Bug Tussle's in the middle. Lake Worth, 13 students per teacher. Bug Tussle, 13.5. Highland Park, 13.8. Highland Park gets the best results with the worst student-teacher ratio in the example sample here. What the heck is going on? I can tell you what's going on. Here's what a lot of teachers say. Here's what a lot of administrators say. There's only so much you can do. There's only so many laws you can change. There's only so many rules you can tweak. Do the dress code? Do we do uniforms? The thought process is if you took the administration from the worst performing school and you put them in Highland Park, you put them in charge of Highland Park, you'd still get pretty damn good results at Highland Park. And if you took the Highland Park faculty and you put it at the worst school in the Lake Worth district, you'd still get dismal results. Yes, teachers matter. Yes, administrators matter, but not nearly as much as what? This is going to break some hearts. Parenting. One of the big correlations I've found in the data, it comes with how many students are enrolled in English as a second language programs. And if you get above 10% or so on that, your school's getting crushed. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about illegals. Yeah. I mean, how else do you explain being 6 years old or 7 years old and you don't understand English? You're not from here. And sure, a lot of people might have moved here legally, but I don't think that's the majority of what's filling up the ESL programs. And don't at me. My grandmother was an ESL teacher. So your theories, 800-288-9227. I'd like to hear what you think makes one school district perform so much better than another one. 800-288-9227. And while you're mulling that over, coming up next, we're going to talk to Lieutenant Colonel Alan West about the Texas House Democrats. They're returning to the state legislature today, but are we actually going to get anything done? And was this all just a big show? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. My next guest is a great Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, back on the James Show. Does so much around here, including being with the ACRU.org, the American Constitutional Rights Union. Welcome back to the show. All right, let's start with the most important thing ever, Texas. We have the Democrats coming back this week. Guess we're going to get the maps passed. What was this all about? Did the Massachusetts governor really threaten to gerrymander her state? That's hilarious. Yeah, I remember them going up there. Somehow that one got by me. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, do you think that Democrat voters are kind of scratching their heads saying, hang on, you're going to flee the state for redistricting, but for all these other priorities, and I don't know, these aren't our priorities, but their priorities. They didn't flee the state over the abortion law. They didn't flee the state over DEI. They didn't flee the state over transports. They didn't flee the state over THC bans or all these other things that you would think would be far more important priorities for the Democrat voter. Do you think they feel a little left out? Beto, you're right. Love that. Right? Bob Frank. Gerrymander. Yeah, gerrymander is something that has been done the second the country started and hasn't ceased for 5 seconds throughout our entire history. Yeah, there you go. Right. The original name, gerrymandering. Okay, so we're talking with Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. You seem to be quite busy these days. You're still with the ACRU and the Dallas County GOP at the same time? Well, let's look at Texas in general again. We have the state rankings for the public school districts, And we were just talking in the last two segments on what makes some school districts so much better than others. And I was pointing out, according to WFAA's list, in North Texas, the school district that did the best was Highland Park. The one that did the worst was Lake Worth. And if you look, Highland Park actually pays its teachers, on average, the best performing school district. They pay them less than the worst performing school district. When are people going to separate the idea of money is going to solve some of these educational problems? And we need to do something besides just throwing money at these problems. All right, so what events you got coming up? Anything the public would be interested in? Amen. All right. This is Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. That event he talked about with Brian Kilmeade is happening this Saturday downtown. And if you want tickets to that, it's actually on the headline rotator at WBAP.com. So you can just follow the links there and pick up tickets now. It's the largest event. We're talking to Brian Kilmeade on the show tomorrow about this, but he says this may be the biggest event that he's done on one of these tours thus far. So we better pack that house. Thank you very much, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Appreciate your time on the James Show yet again. See you around. You want to know what a nice guy Lieutenant Colonel Alan West is? He actually remembers my name when I see him in events now. Just some little old farm boy from the middle of nowhere, bug tussle. All right, coming up next on the James Show, Rockwall ISD is investigating. The word, I don't know what they're investigating. They said 2 inappropriate and offensive flags were hung outside of their school this weekend. And this morning there was a bit of a hubbub on social media, and I was doing some digging, finding out what the flags were. Find out next on the James Show. 800-288-9227. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker, and we're taking a look at Texas schools here. You know, the reason why there's a big chunk that comes out of your mortgage payment every month is tied to this. You're paying for this. Are you getting the results that you paid for? Is the money even the deciding factor? Because one of the things that I pointed out is as soon as I get these lists, this is the kind of stuff I look at. The best performing school district, their teachers have a lower average salary than the worst performing school district in North Texas. Money is not the issue. Socioeconomic factors are not the issue. Oppression, racism, sexism, whatever ism, not the issue. Well, Parker, what is it then? I think it's dads. 800-288-9227. This is Karen and Justin. You're on WBAP.
Yes. Just kind of my opinion about it. You know, you made the comment about it's because of the dad's not involved.
Yeah.
I think it's just, period, the parents aren't involved. When the parents are not involved, knowing what's going on in the school system, know what their kids are doing, the schools are not responsible for raising our children. And unfortunately, there's a lot of attitude because of this whole entitlement that we have right now that, oh, I don't have to raise my kid. That's what the teacher's there for.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. And you have a totally sympathetic ear on the idea that there's a bunch of parents who are together who are still doing a terrible job raising their kids. But there's a lot of people when I have these discussions, they mishear me. I'm not saying all single mothers do a bad job. I'm not saying all blended families do a bad job. I'm not saying step parents can't, be good parents and have good results. But when you put it all together, the number one deciding factor on, experientially on whether or not a kid is going to, have a successful transition into adulthood is whether or not they were born in wedlock and raised by their biological parents. And
right.
I mean, there's a reason why my sister works at Bug Tussle School System. She's an elementary school teacher out there. And there's a reason why she works at a school district that pays $10,000 less than the state average. It's because she doesn't want to go somewhere where they pay more and she has to deal with horrible kids who have discipline problems. And then the horrible kids have crappy parents. And so I think that's a big factor in why a lot of teachers choose their job. And it's not just all about money.
No, it's not about the money. It's about we need to discipline our children, stop the whole being so kind and not saying no to our children. Come on. This is what's wrong with society. They don't know how to take a no.
Well, and I also find this optimistic in the fact that it can be fixed. If this is socioeconomic, then there's not a whole lot we can do. Poor people are always going to be poor. Rich people are always going to be rich. And that's just not fair. But what we've learned here is that poor people or poor students of poor families, if they are in the household with their biological mother and father, they do better than rich kids who aren't. And so the onus isn't, well, we need another union or we need more pay or we need more spending or $8 billion more for public education or it's not even school vouchers. It's dads is what it is.
Yeah, it's dads, it's moms, it's the involvement. If you're not involved with your kids and not know what's going on, they're not going to learn what they need to learn.
All right, good stuff. Thank you, Karen. Appreciate you calling in.
No problem. Mm-hmm.
This is Adam in Fort Worth. You're on WBAP. Where are you at, Adam?
Well, I'm in Fort Worth right now, and I currently go to the Keller ISD as a parent. But I think your problem is actually trifecta. It's actually threefold.
Okay.
When you don't have a parenting group that takes care of their kids and parents their kids and raises them correctly, and then the second pillar of that trifecta is you have school systems who are so indoctrinated by the unions and by people who want the education to be converted from math, science, history, social studies, and what have you, to make sure every kid believes that they can tell their teachers things and that parents shouldn't know what's going on with their kids in school, especially if they have a viewpoint.
Wait a second. Hang on. You know what? I really should have brought this up when I started talking about this. There is an interesting phenomenon that happens with really rich people and really poor people, and there's a lot of them. One of them is they have a tendency to be liberal. Very rich people, affluent, white bourgeois liberals are a thing, and they vote the same way as the people who are doing drive-bys or the people who are living in the slums or the people who are having a hard time economically, just not as successful, living on the bad side of town and the dangerous, crime-ridden. They have a completely different worldview and experience, but they vote the same way. And so when you go to some of these bourgeois liberal schools, they are teaching all this weird stuff. The social justice warrior, the critical race theory, just as the same as the ones that are doing absolutely terrible. So I don't think that's it at all, because if you have good parents and good students, even if your school has terrible curriculum, even if they have the terrible worldview, even if they're woke as heck, you still get good results. It's about that. It's not even wokeism.
I think you do, but I think it's part of the problem, because if you have a child, even if you're a good parent, that puts up a good front in front of you and tells you everything you want to hear and then goes to school and does something completely different, and then there's a disconnect, I just think that's one of the problems. But then the final problem, I think, is our current law system when it comes to, setting the standard for act this way in school. This is what's going to happen. And the fact that there's lack of discipline there, too, it's just a complete disconnect between all three groups, which cause total breakdown of the system.
Yeah, well, look, discipline's a big part of it. But again, I think that is also the foundation of that problem is in the home and the lack of a dad.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Right. I think the parents are the founding cornerstone of everything. But if you have the parents that are good and doing their job, but the other two prongs of the system aren't supporting the parental role, then the parents can only do so much. And I think we need a complete overhaul.
Well, good chat. I appreciate you calling in. This is Adam in Fort Worth, killing it on the James Show. Thank you, sir. Coming up next, David Hamilton, National Security and Economic Center at UNT, he's our foreign policy wonk. He's going to give you what he thinks the progress looks like now that we've had the Putin meeting, the Zelensky meeting, and the meeting with the European leaders. He was just watching that, and he'll break it down for you next on the James Show. If you have any calls on the school system, 800-288-9227. We'll get back to your calls after David Hamilton next on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. One of my regular guests, a foreign policy wonk, coming on the James Show, David Hamilton from the National Security and Economic Center at UNT. Comes on so much, I have that memorized. Welcome back, David Hamilton. Do we have David? Oh, there you go. Hey. So, look, you're my guy who has inside info on what's going on with Russia, Ukraine, and all this foreign policy stuff. How do you think this is going so far? The meeting with Putin on Friday, Zelensky this morning, the European leaders right as the James Show started. Your thoughts? Janae. Yep. All right. So at the table today, by the way, we're talking with David Hamilton, National Security Economic Center. At the table today, he talked to Zelensky and then brought in a bunch of other people, and they all had this sort of round table discussion that, I don't know, looked like the conference room. We had the leaders of Italy, Germany, England, the UN General Secretary General was there. Also the guy from Finland. What's Finland doing there? David Hamilton, the most optimistic part of the roundtable meeting that I heard today was when the Chancellor of Germany, Merz, said that he expects to continue meeting in the months ahead, and he expects the next time he meets, there will be a ceasefire. And everyone at the table kind of did a nod yes. It seems to be the general consensus is that a ceasefire is close. Yeah, Germans in war haven't really gone too well together in the last century or so. David Hamilton, how do we find your work online? Hey. Yeah. Good. Yeah, I went to your last event. I was very impressed. I love going to that kind of stuff. I'll see you again. What was that, September 13th? Is Petraeus going to be there? Okay. You sure you want me to go? I don't know. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. All right. Again, David Hamilton. The website, I just checked it out, unt.edu/NSESC. And if you don't remember, just send me you're going to do it anyway. Send me an email or a Facebook message. I'll send you the link. I know you want to go. All right. Coming up next, we have some great callers on the school system topic that's going on. The grades came out for everyone's school districts around here in Texas, and we're just breaking down the results and trying to figure out what's going wrong at the failing schools. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Yeah, we're talking about schools now. Yeah, Russia was the top topic, and we did the state legislators finally coming back. That was our second topic. So if you miss any of that, go check out the podcast. But we have a list of the schools finally, in the public schools in Texas got their grades released. And WFA did a cool thing where they ranked the top 10 and the top worst performing schools just in our area, just in North Texas. And then we were looking at this and breaking it down and trying to, this is how you come up with solutions. This is how, when you identify a problem, you and I talk about it, and then we try and find and put people in positions of power that will implement the policies or at least put it in the direction that we want. Now, some of the obvious things that get thrown out all the time is, well, they need more money. Our public schools are underfunded, and so all the rich schools get all the money and all the poor schools get no money. And so of course it's not fair. Of course they don't. And I don't like that, and you don't like that, because it absolves the students and really, by proxy, the parents of any guilt. No, the parents didn't do anything wrong. It's just a lack of funding. That's the problem. No, the parents didn't do anything wrong. It's just racism or sexism or some random form of bigotry. It's outside of their control, and these other people have agency over them, and that's why. No, that's not it. That's not it. At some point, I'm wanting the general consensus of the American public to admit that the number one determining factor on whether or not a school is successful are the parents of the students in that school. Is that so hard to admit? Because for some people it is. For some people, self-accountability or any kind of accountability for protected groups, it's just not a thing. Poor people, no, they can't have done anything wrong. They're obviously downtrodden. They're obviously oppressed. No, they're not. Also in Round Rock, there was one. This was such a silly story. On Saturday morning, someone saw hanging off one of the schools in Round Rock. Was that Heath High School? I don't know all their schools. Someone hung some flags off the top that had swastikas on them. And look, swastikas are bad, and everyone agrees we shouldn't be doing that. But the way it's being reported on, man, yeah, Rockwall Heath. That's right, Rockwall Heath. I did have the high school right. That they're like, this is some anti-Semitic signs. It's like, well, that's not the only thing they did. It's a Nazi sign. Anyway, they the part I find adorable is they blurred out the swastikas. You blurred out the swastikas like it's an obscene body part. Like we can't even see the crooked sticks crossing each other. Oh yeah, that's just too obscene. That's too obscene for the delicate eyes of the general public. People, calm down. To the phones we go. 800-288-9227. This is John in Valley View. You're on WBAP.
Hey, James. Something I don't know if anybody's touched on yet, but a lot of your better teachers, the ones that value education, where they're going to migrate to your schools to have a better education system, even for less money, because they're raising their kids there. They want their kids to have a better education. So I think that's going to bring in your better teachers for less money. And I've seen more times than not, there's been teachers after their kids graduate, they go to another school where they can make more money.
That I have seen, and you're absolutely right. But again, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying the backstop to all this isn't throwing more money at it. It's not, or it's not blaming someone who colors outside the lines of wokeism. It's not some sort of policy that can be tweaked and changed. You're just stuck with the parents of the community of that school.
Absolutely. And the disciplinary is definitely the top driver, but that's where you're going to take your kids.
And so also, what does this mean that we can do in the meantime? And we're not going to fix bad parents. We're always going to have bad parents. We can try and minimize it. We can, certainly adopt policies and social norms that would have less of a prevalence of bad parents. But what a great argument this is for school choice, because if you happen to be one of the few good parents in a school district where you're overwhelmingly dominated by terrible parents, wouldn't it be nice if you could escape the prepaid government monopoly that is the socialized school system?
Absolutely.
But that's a great point. I'm glad you called in, John. Valley View. Appreciate it, sir.
All right. Thanks, sir.
This is Harry in Walburn. You're on WBAP.
Yes. I graduated Holland Park in 1973, many moons ago, And back then,
when it was a suburb.
classes
I'm just
that were-
kidding.
Pardon?
Back when it was a suburb.
Yeah. No, it was still surrounded. Anyway, we had classes. We had math, reading, literature, art, music, foreign languages, physical science, social studies, on and on and on. But we didn't have any indoctrination type, wokeism type classes. And I think part of it too, the parents are really big. I get that. Everybody's gone there. But I think also we had 5 television stations back in the day. We didn't have 300 of them spouting different things. So a lot of the kids learn from TV or social media or things, and that's where they're picking up a lot of things they're not really getting in school. And I think it's partially parents and partially what's taught in a lot of the schools.
Well, Harry, the kids at Highland Park, Carroll, and Lovejoy have access to the same 400 TV channels and Infinity watching options online as the kids who do go to the terrible schools.
I agree, and I think the parents there are the big difference. That said earlier, the parents are the big difference. And if you have good reinforcement of parental skills and passing that on to the kids, that's big, and good teachers too.
Well,
So
how
it's
do you
kind of a
fix that,
combination.
Harry? That's your concern. What do you do to fix the fact that kids are watching too much TV or have too many options where they're learning bad stuff or not learning at all?
Well, I think that goes back to having parents you got to have some boundaries. And that's tough to do because kids want to do what the other kids are doing, and maybe they're learning things that their parents didn't, and their parents can't keep up with the science or with iPhones and technology, and the kids they're really tied into it. So it's tough. I don't know that there's an easy answer.
Definitely not. But hey, I think you're on the right track. This is Harry in Walburn. Thank you very much for calling WBAP. Do you have a solution? 800-288-9227. Because why do some schools do so much better than others? Coming up next, a dating app is having to pay millions in a class action fraud case. I knew those things were shady. Hear the truth behind sketchy dating apps next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. We were talking about the school system. We finally got the grades here, and we're talking about what makes a school a good school, what makes another school a bad school. It's not the money. It's not the teachers. It's not socioeconomic factors. It's not racism. It's not anyism. It's the parents. That's my conclusion. That's what it really boils down to. And for so many of the statistics that you can go look up, there seems to be a lot of correlation, but not causation between some factors. And, when you break down some of these other problems, discipline, well, that's really the issue of the parents. Well, tardiness or absenteeism, well, it's part of the issue of the parents. Kids don't care. Kids aren't paying attention. They don't do their homework. Some of that's on the head of the parents. Well, we don't get enough parental involvement, or so much of this comes back to the parents. And when I say parents, I mean biological mother and father. If you don't have that, you're not doomed, but the odds are a lot worse. Jimmy, Fort Worth, you're on WBAP. You're going to be my last word on this. What do you think?
Am I on?
Yes, sir. Go, Jimmy.
Okay, Jimmy. I'm sorry.
I'm a Jimmy, too. It doesn't
James.
matter.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Yes, number one is parent involvement.
Yep.
And number two is Austin, Texas. You look at your STAR test, your TAS test, or whatever the flavor is of the year now. They juggle the numbers so that the schools can pass their students low ball, easy ball crap. Look at the amount of students that are graduating that can't read or write.
Okay, but that doesn't.
The whole thing is a sham.
Yeah, okay, but that doesn't stop the good school districts from cranking out good results. When you look at Highland Park, when you look at Carroll, when you look at Lovejoy, their average SAT score is like 350 points higher than Lake Worth. So we're still getting. Well, they're under Austin too. So how did they get around it? But these other ones don't. It's not just Austin.
Well, there isn't any just one answer to the whole. It's everything as a whole.
Yeah.
We want to blame socioeconomic tragedy on, and it's pouring into the schools. It's pulling the schools down. It's everything, James, and that's the problem. We need to tear this thing down, and people and parents get involved that really care, and just redo the whole thing.
Wait. Hang on. You got me excited.
What we're doing to our children.
Other Jimmy, you got me excited. When you say tear this whole thing down, you mean get rid of public schools?
We need to look at how how the rules are set up and who do they favor.
Jimmy, I'm brave enough to say it. We should get rid of public schools. This is like one of my most unpopular opinions that I know most people disagree with. I'm not scared to say it anymore. There's a preponderance of evidence and data, and I can defend this to the hilt. Get rid of public schools.
If that's what it takes for our kids to be able to graduate and learn and know how to read and write and know what some sort of history of this country is, where we came from, and where they want to go from graduation day forward.
Got it. Love it.
If that takes ending public schools, go for it. I'm all in, man.
Well, don't be so shy about it next time. Thank you very much. That's Jimmy in Fort Worth. My next story is based sort of out of Dallas. There's a Dallas company here, Dallas-based online dating giant. They own so many of the brands maybe you've used. The Match Group, of course, they got Match, Tinder, OkCupid, Plenty of Fish, Hinge. Which one's Hinge? Well, they have to pay a $14 million settlement, and they also have to change how they market and manage their subscriptions. Federal Trade Commission just slapped him down with a lawsuit. And the basis of this is that they tricked hundreds of thousands of people into paid subscriptions because you would set up a profile and you would supposedly go through and check the ones that you liked, and the people that liked you back, you would get a message saying, hey, would you like to find out who all likes you? Well, get a subscription. We'll let you know. Now, what's wrong with that? A lot of the matches were from bot accounts. Match knew that, and they didn't do anything to get rid of the bot accounts because they were tricking people into signing up for subscriptions. And then once they were in the system, Match made it kind of difficult to get out of the system. You ever try to turn off your cable before, or your satellite? I remember I unhooked one of the dish companies, And it took forever. I'm like, y'all are doing this on purpose. So I'll just hang it. Yeah. Yeah, they kind of do make it difficult to unsubscribe. Well, Match made it a little too difficult to unsubscribe. But we also found out things that you probably suspected and a lot of us kind of had confirmed by, remember the Ashley Madison scandal that happened like a decade ago? Where they came out the database of users to Ashley Madison was the website where people used to hook up to have an affair or think that they were hooking up to have an affair. And I used to joke that Ashley Madison is probably 20 million dudes and like 4 women. And that was my joke. My joke wasn't far off. It was like 2 million dudes and 4,000 women. It was bad. It was absolutely bad. But we also kind of had that confirmed with this story. These dating websites are just swamped with the guys, and there's not nearly enough women to go around. So what does that mean? What does that mean when you turn off this story and you look out your window? Because men and women are all using dating apps, and they all gripe about them, but men have a legitimate gripe. There's not enough women to go around. They just get turned down, and they're still having a hard time. Now, women, when you gripe, you are outnumbered like 20-1 by guys on some of these dating sites. And if you can't find a guy that's good enough for you, maybe you have an unreal expectation on where you fall in the dating hierarchy. Because I shudder when I hear about the studies that show the top 10% of men get 80% of the women. Like 80% of the women are only interested in the like top 10, 20% of men. And so what do the rest of the other 80% of men do? Well, they don't ever get swiped on. I don't know if it's right or left. I met Miss Parker before dating apps were really a thing. So I'm kind of old, too old to have made that trend. But that's the scary part. And then you have on the other side of the spectrum, men will date 80% of the women, but they don't really want to, marry them and have a relationship. They'll just, and I use date as doing that. Yes, a lot of heavy lifting there. So if you're a man, women are just shooting you down all over the place and they're not interested in you. If you are a woman and you're not in that top 10, 20%, then you're just being used. I'm glad I missed that. 800-288-9227. If you have anything to add to that, I'm glad I found mine the old-fashioned way. Manually, at a party, I went up and I talked to her. I gave her some funny lines. I made her laugh. I got her a drink. We chitty-chatted on the patio at a friend's birthday party. That's how I did it. Coming up next, we're going to play Dead or Alive. And I'm pretty excited about today's game because I made it themed to the show. This is going to be famous teachers, and it's all from TV shows and movies, so shut up. But we're also, I'm excited about the prize. We're playing for 4 tickets to see the Texas Rangers take on the Cleveland Indians. Still calling them Indians. Saturday, August 23rd. That's this weekend at Globe Life Field. It's a Saturday game, so you can go. And the first 20,000 fans in attendance get a miniature replica of the Adrian Beltre statue, the one that they just put outside the stadium. You can get tickets at TexasRangers.com, or if you want to try and win some from me next on Dead or Alive, call right now, 800-288-9227. It's The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
Hold my beer. Hold my beer.
Hold my beer. What?
torn? You going through a breakup, Garrett? Welcome to the James Show. News. I'm kidding. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. If you're just joining us, you're right on time. We're going to play Dead or Alive for Ranger tickets. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Jovi. Welcome to Dead or Alive. Got a great prize in store today. It's Ranger tickets. Today, we're playing for 4 tickets to see the Texas Rangers take on the Cleveland Indians Saturday, August 23rd at Globe Life Field. The first 20,000 fans in attendance will receive a miniature replica of the Adrian Beltre statue that they just unveiled outside of Globe Life, the stadium. For the rest of you, you're going to get tickets at TexasRangers.com. But I have a full boat of calls here that want to try and win a pair from old WBAP on Dead or Alive. You want to do ladies first? Bonnie and Richardson. You ready for Dead or Alive?
I am.
Okay, so today is the teacher edition. These are all TV and movie teachers. How confident you feel about that, Bonnie?
We'll see.
All right. I'll start off with an easy one then. Gabe Kaplan. He played Mr. Carter on Welcome Back, Kotter. Dead or alive?
Alive.
He is alive. 80 years old. Bryan Cranston, who played Walter White, the teacher Mr. White on Breaking Bad. Is he dead or alive?
Alive.
He is alive. Would you like to guess his name? I mean, his age.
60.
Come on now. It's 69. Just throwing it out there. Whenever I say that, y'all just say the word. Say the magic word that makes all immature people giggle. The next one, Tony Danza. He was in Taxi and Who's the Boss, but he was also in a short-lived TV show called Teach in 2010 where he was a teacher. But is he still alive, Tony Danza?
Alive.
74 years old. Well done. William Daniels. He played Mr. Feeney from Boy Meets World. Is he dead or alive?
Dead.
No, that's understandable guess because he is 98 years old. He was old as heck during Boy Meets World. Thank you very much for kicking us off there. That's Bonnie and Richardson. Let's go to Jonathan and Aubrey. You ready for Dead or Alive?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're going down. The next one is Howard Hessman. He was first in WKRP, and then he was the teacher from Head of the Class. Is he dead or alive?
He's dead.
He is dead. He died in 2022. Mark Curry from Hanging with Mr. Cooper, dead or alive?
Alive.
64 years old. Well done. Gene Hackman, who played kind of a teacher in Hoosiers, dead or alive?
He's dead.
Yep, just died a couple months ago. William Catt. He played Ralph Hinckley, who was a teacher. That was his day job in The Greatest American Hero. Is he dead or alive?
Dead.
No, sorry, sir. Great guess, though, Jonathan. I appreciate you playing Dead or Alive. We're going to Debbie and Mansfield. You're next up. There's only 2 left. How you feeling, Debbie?
Pretty good.
Are you a big Rangers fan?
Yes.
Oh, well, you're in a good spot here. Next one. The character is John Keating from the Dead Poets Society. He was played by Robin Williams. Is Robin Williams dead or alive?
He's dead.
He is dead. And finally, the actor's name is Edward James Olmos. He played Jaime Escalante in Stand and Deliver. Is he dead or alive?
What's the name again?
Edward James Olmos.
He is dead.
Excuse me. Did you say dead?
Yes.
Hate doing that to people.
Oh,
God,
shoot.
Debbie. So I guess it goes to Cody. Cody, you want these tickets?
Yes, I do.
All right. Well, you didn't do anything to earn them. But if Debbie would have known if Edward James Olmos is alive or dead, that would be hers.
He was at the Trump. He was with Trump last go around. He's still alive.
He was? Oh,
Yeah.
well.
He was one of them shameful actors who stood by his side.
All right. So, Cody, you going to the Rangers game? Do you need the tickets, or I give them someone else?
No, I'll use them up.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, then we have a successful game. Thank you very much for playing today, Cody. This has been Dead or Alive. Coming up next, the city of Dallas is holding public hearings on DEI cuts. They're actually going to debate whether do we keep our DEI programs and lose all of our federal funding? Find out about it next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Now, if it sounds like I'm upset about this next story, I'm not. I think it's funny and I'm going to ridicule it, but make no mistake, I'm not losing any sleep over this, and this doesn't bother me or ruin my day in the least. It is a little absurd and eye-rolling, but under the Trump administration, executive orders have already come out that any entity that receives federal grant money, if they are using DEI, they will lose access to that grant money. And so that is a unit of control. You know, anytime you get the government, federal government, state government, local government to pay for something, what you're really saying is, in exchange for this money, I'm going to give you control over me. Because now whatever the grant was for, it's probably not even related to DEI. The grant could be for a new highway or a new park or, I don't know, some flood water mitigation system. They can withhold that and make you either have DEI or not have DEI. So that's the ugly part of it. We'll talk about that another day. We're already living in this world. And Dallas, the people in charge, not you and me, but the city leaders, haven't quite decided if they're going to comply with this. What's more important? Getting more money? Because you think the most important thing to all politicians is getting as much money from the taxpayers as they can. Whether it's through local property taxes, their benefactors in Austin, or their overlord puppet masters in D.C., they're always wanting to get money. They're not so sure about this one, though. They're like, I don't know. I don't know if I can quit discriminating against white people and Christians and men and straight people in exchange for money. I think discriminating against people like James Parker is far more important than the millions and billions of dollars we get in taxpayer grants to help all the citizens of Dallas. It would be, we're thinking about continuing discrimination based on immutable characteristics, so we can, whether or not we get this money. It's like, damn, how much do you people hate me? Because look, is there any other explanation for a DEI program other than it's just anti-me? Is there any program that's DEI that's not anti-me? And so why are you people, number one, putting these programs in place in the first place? It's just legalized racism. And in fact, it's structural racism. You know, they talked about structural systemic racism. This really is systemic racism built within the system. You discriminate against people based on their immutable characteristics. It's just so happened that they happen to match mine, so no one cares. And now when they're going to take millions of dollars away from you, you're like, well, I'm not sure if we should do this. I think it's more important that we can continue discriminating against James and his children and people who look like him and share his demographic profile. Thanks a lot. Thanks a whole lot. But instead of, just making the decision on their own, they have ordered an immediate halt to policies using demographic factors this summer. And now they're saying that they're going to have community forums. Oh, yes. This fall, they're going to gather public input on the compliance overhaul with 3 community forums. Oh, how nice. Guess who's doing this? The Office of Community Empowerment. God, why do we even have something named the Office of Community Empowerment? Is there a more worthless job in anyone's city hall? What does that even mean? Community empowerment? Not my community, apparently. I hate it when y'all talk in code because we know exactly what this is for. Community empowerment. Hey, we're going to discriminate against James. Yes, we're going to empower the community with anti-white racism. Thanks. That's real empowering. Appreciate it. But check out this schedule here. This is great. The first meeting is going to take place Tuesday, August 26th. That's a week from tomorrow, 4 p.m. at the Latino Cultural Center. Oh, geez. I wonder how they feel about programs being taken away that give them a privileged position when it comes to getting opportunities and money and resources and grants and attention. Okay, so they're going to go to the Latinos first. Where are they going second? September 6th. This will be on a Saturday. This will be at the Martin Luther King Community Center on Martin Luther King Boulevard. So they're going to another demographic that has been getting favorable privileged treatment under DEI programs that are going to lose that advantage. And then they're going to show up at these meetings and they're going to be like, they're victims. Why can't they take this away from us? If you've been getting special treatment, equal treatment can feel like discrimination. It's not, though. The final session scheduled for Tuesday, September 9th, 6 p.m. at the West Dallas Multipurpose Center, 2828 Fish Trap Road. So, yeah, we're going to go to everyone but the people who are going to who are being discriminated against by DEI programs. You don't want to go to, I don't know, maybe a white community or maybe a male community or maybe a Christian community or maybe a straight community. Or no, you're just going to go to the people who are getting preferential treatment and ask them what they think about getting rid of DEI programs. I can tell you what they're going to think. They're going to think it's bad. They're going to think it's racist. They're going to act like they're victims. They're not. These people, it's like when they said in The Matrix, they're so used to the system. They're so brainwashed. They're so inured in the system that they will fight to maintain it, even when we all know it's wrong, even when we all know it's legalized racial discrimination, it's legalized gender discrimination, it's legalized orientation discrimination. It's just okay because the demographics that it hurts happen to be overwhelmingly your political opponents. Pretty ugly stuff, City of Dallas. I hope all these programs go away. Do better. All right, coming up tomorrow on The James Show, special guest Brian Kilmeade. So you'll want to come back for that. Coming up next is Mark Levin. But if you need any more James Show action in the meantime, go check out the podcast, WBAP.com, and the WBAP app. Thank you very much for hanging out with me today. I appreciate the time you spend with The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP.